All right, guys, welcome to another Monday Night Live. My guest tonight is a former USAF CE officer at Civil Engineering, and we're going to talk all things extraterrestrials. Have they contacted us here on Earth? Some secret government projects and all that. I'm probably going to butcher his last name, so I'm just going to bring him on and let him tell it to us. So, welcome, Paul. Paul, how you doing, man?
Great. I've been looking forward to this discussion with you because of your background and probably talking a little bit more about you know the the deeper military stuff that people don't know about.
Yeah, me too. I got a million questions, but I'm just gonna kind of let you take it and tell me. And I got some of your talking points here. But first, let's hear a little bit about you. You were born in Italy, right?
Right.
Born in
Yeah. I
Italy. Where at in Italy?
came over with parents at 3, settled in Chicago, and then stayed in the Chicagoland area until I joined the service. Um, but before that, I graduated from the University of Illinois in Chicago with an architecture degree. So I was able to join the service and become an officer with my degree, and stayed in for 13 years, and then went back to Chicago for about 16 years. Um, got laid off on the last job that I had there, which because of the change in the market,
Hmm.
going from military to more civil works, and then I decided to try and get back my time from the government. So with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and I was able to add my 13 years of service to this tenure, so I could retire.
So, you're retired government civilian now?
Not no, I'm not yet retired. I'm still in it, pretty deep in it, in fact.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying to dodge all this cuts and stuff that they got going on now, and just like, oh man, come on, spare me. I'm like you. I bought back some of my military time, and I'm working
Yeah.
towards my civilian retirement with the government. So I'm hoping that some of this stuff I can survive the rounds of cuts here and be able to do that. But well, I guess we'll see. It's kind of crazy right now. Now, you were born in Italy, you came over here, you joined the Air Force as an officer, but you have had some crazy experiences. And I really want to pick your brain about like extraterrestrials and life, and if they've contacted Earth, and some of these government projects that kind of go beyond the science fiction genre, and talking about your book as well, the Disclosure Paradox. Let's start off with that. When did you kind of decide, like, hey, I'm going to write a book, and have some of all these experiences I've been involved with are going to kind of maturate into me writing a novel?
Well, you've got to go all the way back to when I was a child in Catholic school. That's when I had a sense of critical thinking about what was being taught, and much to the chagrin of my parents, I didn't buy into a lot of stuff that they were saying. I just had a very difficult thing accepting a lot of things that they were telling us. A lot of the words I didn't know, and they wouldn't tell us what the words meant. But we need to repeat them, especially in prayer. Um, and but at that time also, I gravitated towards during the 60s we had the Mercury program, the Gemini program, the Apollo program later on, and I was very interested in that. So if you combine my critical thought about religion and my more exuberance with science and space, that made for a combination that worked towards what was going to happen in the future. Um, the I also read a lot of science fiction, and I watched a lot of science fiction movies. So it was always about science and science fiction for me, and going away from the religion part. What happened that was a building block towards um, writing was that when I was in high school, I accidentally stumbled upon listening to a show that had Eric von Daniken speaking about passages in the Bible where he indicated that people were misinterpreting as being God, but actually were examples of high technology and people that were unsophisticated about technology and relating it to something that was more related to God. Specifically, the book of Ezekiel, where it's a wonderful description of the prophet meeting with these beings and actually going into their craft. And so the next day I went to school, looked up the Bible and looked up the verses, and sure enough, it was right there. And I could see how Von Daniken, made sense. So nothing happened after that until I joined the service.
Okay.
And then something profound happened to me that appeared to be, meant to be. So I was a construction manager at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and Wright-Patterson is the cradle of research and development for the Air Force, and that's in Dayton, Ohio. I was construction manager for a project in a facility called Foreign Technology Division.
Foreign Technology
People who don't know,
Division.
Foreign Technology Division is the office, the organization that spies on foreign governments and their weapon systems and identifies their strengths, their weaknesses, and the opportunities that we can take advantage of. And they get that data and they send it over across the base. And across the base, they develop the weapon systems that would counter the strengths of our adversaries or take advantage of their weaknesses.
Okay, makes sense.
When you go to Foreign Technology Division, when it was there, it was a 2-story warehouse type building, no windows. You are greeted by a lawn of motion detectors, and if you got in, even if you had top secret clearance, you were escorted around. When you go through double doors after being checked in, the doors have no numbers, no names. There's no directory. Everything is blank and everything is white, and the quarters are wide, like fit in 3 golf carts abreast.
Wow.
The other thing is that the people that are in one office do not know what's going on in the next office. It's compartmented, and it's
Yeah.
only need to know. Okay,
Sounds like it.
so
Yeah.
everyone has their own lock. They had their own cipher lock. And so my project was on the 2nd floor. And as I go on the 2nd floor, it was gutted. And the job was to make sure that there was no possibility of the contractor claiming differing site condition for, like a contractual modification, for example. So I made sure that what was on the drawings was accurate. And I also had to inspect what's called the as-built drawings that was given to the contractor. Now, the as-built drawings are the drawings that indicate the condition of the facility at the time just before construction. And so I was thumbing through the drawings and I saw a floor plan that said basement on it. Now, this is a warehouse building. Warehouses are not built with basements.
Mm-mm.
So I looked at the plan and I matched it with the outline of the building, and it matched. I thought that was interesting. And then I thumbed through some more pages, and I came across a detail plan that indicated that there was a cryogenic chamber 70 by 90 feet in dimension
70
in
by
this
90
building.
feet? That's
70
huge.
by 90 feet. It's massive.
Wow, that's really big.
Now, the warehouse, the warehouse is large. It was probably about 250 by 250, I think.
Yeah.
So it fit nicely in that warehouse. And I thought, okay, Foreign Technology Division, secret, something is up here. And I looked at my escort, making sure that he didn't see what I saw, rolled up the drawings, and just kept that secret from me for 5 years until leaving the service, after leaving the service. So for some odd reason, I was calm about it. I didn't feel pressure to, like, I was holding a secret, and I was afraid to, be leak it, for example. It just stayed with me, and I was able to just live my life without having like a stress about knowing this information, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It kind of like got put back in my subconscious, in fact, because I completely forgot about it until much later on, around 2009, when I was watching Ancient Aliens, and they had a show about Von Daniken and again the Book of Ezekiel. So that memory came back, and then when that memory came back, the memory about the warehouse came back and flashed, and I thought, oh, I need to do some research here.
Hmm.
And that's when everything started. When I started to do research. The research was finding people that had contact, that were abducted. I set up a support group on Facebook called Spirits and Healing. We had as many as 300 people there that were, ostracized, were isolated from their families because, the families thought that they were either lying or making up stuff about being abducted or having contact,
Sure.
or even having implants, for example. Uh, and these people, they got to know each other, and to this day they still know each other very well, and they keep tabs on each other, which I feel very good about that. They were able to live a decent life knowing that others were like them,
Hmm.
right? So with that, I also set up a blog about suppressed truth. For instance, suppressed information regarding energy, and regarding um, inventions that would help us save gas, for example, that were suppressed in the name of national security. Number of people that are missing that were inventors. How many patents were placed under national security? Things like that. And then I also did some research on things like the chemtrails and and other things, all kinds of stuff that had to do with information that we weren't getting from the mainstream media, like Big Pharma, for example. That conspiracy about how they just want us to be treated but not cured.
Yes.
Things like that were in that blog,
Wow.
and
Is it still up or did it
it
get
was
taken down?
kind of, it was stressful. Well, that's the thing, is that it was stressful for me, and um, when I had a talk with a psychic woman, she said, just focus on one thing. You don't have to be the savior for everything else.
Right.
And
Yeah. Trying
so
to
I
find all the
realized I needed
stories.
to probably focus on, yeah, focus on the extraterrestrial element and disclosure. And at that time, I was for disclosure. So when it was time for me to get a job with the government, I took the blog down
Hmm.
because I didn't want them during the search, and they do a deep search. I didn't want them to see that tied with me. So, but I did keep all the information in that blog, and that was the information that I held to put together part of the book.
Gotcha. So, like, is it true
So
that
but the
they're
book
trying
didn't start.
to? Is it true that they're trying to like just they don't want us healed? They just want us treated.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure of it. That's pretty evident. Yeah, it doesn't take a. You don't have to go stretch for that one. It's pretty easy to understand. In fact, if you talk to some doctors will tell you that that's what the information they get. Yeah.
Wow.
But that's not why we're here.
Yeah. So let's talk about you see this cryogenic plan, and let me ask you just a big question. Do you think that there's life out there, and have they made contact with us?
They made contact with me.
They made contact with you.
Yeah, through
Okay.
a medium.
Really?
They
Well,
they're
let me
called
hear about
they're
that.
called they're called the Watchers. The medium is a woman, a psychic woman. She goes into a trance when she gets this contact directed to me, and they send me messages through her.
What do they say? What is their kind of their attitude, mood towards this, communication?
So they call themselves the Watchers. They're monitoring Earth. They're monitoring the humans. Part of the deal is that I think they're linked to monitoring our nuclear capability because we're like children playing with matches. We're not spiritually evolved to have that kind of technology. Um, if you really want to know, the the detonations in Japan were like a fire alarm throughout the universe, and that's when we started to get the spikes in all of the activity and the sightings, because they realized that we were not spiritually evolved to handle that technology, and we didn't know its impact, because what we now know is that the extreme amount of energy released at that point in time actually causes damage to other dimensions. So that's what they were really concerned about. I mean, if you happen, to be exploding bombs and it's destroying something you don't even know that it's destroying, that's pretty dangerous, right?
Yeah, do we know that? Are we aware of that? Is that why government or like nuclear testing has
You know,
decreased?
that's part of it. And my hypothesis is that the CERN Hadron Collider,
Yep.
the Hadron Collider, I think part of the deal is that they're trying to actually control the 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 activity or the event that would fracture to get into another dimension.
So how do other dimensions work? Can you explain that a little more?
I'm not a physicist. I know that they're talking about it. All I know is that they're, and talking from psychic people, is that there are other dimensions. It's, for example, if we learn our lesson here on Earth, our spirits decouple from us and they go to the next level of life in another dimension. So it's all about ascending and evolving spiritually, not just evolving as a species.
Interesting. And there's a talking point that your publicist put in here, about the idea that humanity's spiritual growth is essential to not only survival but advancement. Can you
Correct.
elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. Uh, there is a person who passed away. His name is Robert Dean. Have you heard of him? He's
No.
he. Okay, so he was with the Army because of his psychic ability. They had him making contact with extraterrestrials to kind of get an idea of what's going on. And when he found out that the government was trying to do something that was unethical, he was doing it on his own, and he learned that they are concerned about us because we have a combination of being intelligent, but our DNA, which is actually our original sin, not what the Bible says, our DNA makes us barbaric, violent, have an irrational obsession with possessions, and being racist to the point of genocidal, where we kill our own in mass. And they figured that if we were to have disclosure, it would lead to contact. If we were to have contact, it would lead to a transfer of technology. If we were to have that transfer of technology, our lower energies, our greedy systems, whatever, would take that technology, weaponize it, and use it against those that actually gave it to us. And in the name of things like the Monroe Doctrine or Manifest Destiny or spreading Christianity or even just getting rare materials. So they're very concerned about that, and that's why we are in what's called um, a quarantine, a technological and a social quarantine. Okay. Now, the spiritual part is that when people see these beings and they see evidence of these beings and these craft, and they think they're more intelligent than us, that's not necessarily the case. They're advanced because they've been around longer than us, because they got it. They understand the balance that we have to have, where technology equals the level of spirituality. Where we are right now, we have a very high a level of technology, and our spirituality is very low. And when you have that imbalance, the species has a propensity to self-eradicate.
Okay.
When you have the opposite, where you have a higher level of spirituality and lower level of technology, the species has a propensity to be assimilated by a more technological species. Understand that?
Yep.
So, if we are to evolve, if we are to survive, we need to raise our spirituality to the level where our technology is, if we are to be invited back into the universal community. Because right now, we're not allowed.
Hmm. So, elaborate on what you mean by spirituality so that people listening don't think that you mean just a specific religion, but you mean our beliefs and kind of our mantra and all that, right?
Right. So if everyone knew about spirituality, there would be no need for religion. Uh,
Okay.
Spirituality is that the the, um, the universal community considers Earth very precious, because it is the school where our spirits, which are energies, are linked to us through our brain and our pineal gland. Okay, and the spirit as an energy cannot do the things that we do on Earth. They can't learn about love. They can't learn about pain, suffering, um, beauty, creativity, all of the things that is in the human element. They they can't experience that without being linked to a human. And so when they are here linked to us, and it's a school that they learn lessons about life, when they pass, they go to a place where all the spirits are between lives, and that's where they download their life, and then they upload the next life based on what they did the previous life. And if they need to learn their lesson, they come back. But if they learn their lesson, they get to advance to another form of life. See,
Wow.
so it's very important that um, that people understand that the basically the only reason that we're here is to make life better for others, instead of making life better for ourselves at the expense of others. If we just follow that rule, that's that's the only rule you need for this school. Okay, everything else is just theater.
But those that are watching us do believe that we are capable of that.
They obviously they feel that there's hope. Okay, they feel that we haven't reached our potential, but there are entities that want to keep things the way they are, and they're called archons. And archons are interdimensional beings. The Bible called them demons, and what they are physically is that they are emotional vampires. They feed off of pain, suffering, all the negative energies that come to us, porn, all of that stuff they feed off of, and it's like a drug to them. So, like a drug, if you're addicted to it, you want more and more of it. And so, if you see, things happening, getting worse, it's because that they're kind of running the show.
Okay,
and the reason that they want that to happen is because there is a spiritual war going on still in the universe. There's a spiritual war going on between the good and evil. And it's all about numbers. If we have people ascending, we join in with the good guys. If we join in with the good guys, then we add numbers to the forces. But if we keep coming back, then the numbers don't add up, and okay. the evil guys have the advantage.
That is really, really interesting the way you kind of explain it. It makes a lot of sense, but it almost feels like so real, like so true, that some of the things that we've been told in history, and some of the experts like you who have came out and spoken about these things, how it makes a lot of sense, because again, all the way back to what you said about Japan, where we dropped the 2 bombs at Japan, and that was a massive amount of energy at that point in time in history. I mean, a massive amount. It was historical, groundbreaking. Nobody had ever done it, and nobody's ever done it since. But we've had the technology. In fact, the technology has advanced so much to where those bombs are considered minor now. They're still very destructive, but in compared to what we have. And it kind of begs the question: how come it hasn't been used in warfare since? Why hasn't Vladimir Putin used it in Ukraine or in any of these other instances? Is there something does he know what you know, like that is such a bad thing? Are we embargoed? Does he understand that? Do governments understand that?
Well, have you heard stories about testimony where there were at least 3 incidences where nuclear exchange was averted because of outside influence?
No.
All right, so look up sometime Malmstrom Air Force Base, 1967. That's a very famous event where a red orb showed up over the silos at Malmstrom Air Force Base, and the guy's name is Robert Sala. He was a captain in one of the silos, and he goes around talking about it. One by one, those orbs shut down those silos to show who's boss.
Wow. What was this guy's name?
Robert Sala.
You said Captain Robert Sala?
Well, he was captain. I mean, he's older than I am right now. Yeah.
Interesting.
Still going around. I think he wrote a book.
Yeah. So is it not so much about us knowing these truths, but as much as like the universe kind of keeping us at bay so that we don't self-destruct?
Yes. Correct. They're more concerned about the planet than they are about us. Sure. We're expendable, but because the spirit could link to anything, they can make anything link to it, because it's the spirit is the important thing, but the planet is like a classroom, and it's a very sophisticated classroom that they set it up, so they don't want us to screw it up.
Wow. So I'm assuming, obviously, based on what you've said, there's other life out there, and they're watching us closely. Is there life on other planets, or is Earth the only classroom that they have set up that they're running this experiment with?
there are 5 specific areas that I identify in my book that extraterrestrials cohabitate with us. Antarctica, um, under Alaska near Denali, the Himalayas, off the coast of Ireland, uh, where an island is called High Brazil. It's a mythical island, but there is activity there, and off the coast of Catalina Island in California, and the Andes, of course. So yeah, they're still here. Oh, and also the Western United States. Um, so, but yes, they do come from the Palladian system. They come from Orion's belt. At least those are 2 that I know about. There are Arcturians, which is from the Arcturi system, and then the Watchers that I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
Their their listening post is on the moon.
Really?
Yeah, they told me they are on the moon.
Is that why we haven't been back?
I would wager on that Armstrong and Aldrin came back and said, "Hey, there's somebody there that don't want us back there."
Wow. Well, I mean, because there's some of those things in history where you kind of wonder, like, if we were able to go to the moon and walk on it all those years ago, why have we never been back to do it again? And we have technology today that you would think would make it even easier, and
Easier. Yeah.
we haven't. Why?
Right.
Because somebody
Right.
doesn't want us to.
Correct.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So these folks that are watching us, they don't want, like in the movies we always portray them as these evil aliens that are here to take our resources and destroy our planet and blah blah blah. They're obviously more concerned with, I keep saying experiment, but running this classroom and keeping this formula for existence of the human race kind of going and preserving the planet. They obviously don't want war. They don't want any kind of conflict with us. How come we've never like seen them? How come they haven't made themselves a little more public?
Well, that's the thing is that if they were public, and especially if it was official, it would put pressure on them and our governments to isolate them and to probably get their technology somehow. They're just concerned about that. They don't want specific technology to fall into our hands.
Okay. That's fair. Speaking of technology and all this information, how does the United States military industrial complex like treat and handle information today? Because you kind of involved in some of it, being there at Right Pat. You know, is it just a bunch of crazy conspiracy theories like everybody thinks, or is that misinformation on purpose to kind of guide you away from the truth?
All right, those are 2 different things. The government is one entity. The military industrial complex is another entity that has much more power, much more control, has certain technologies based on an agreement that was made after Eisenhower left a meeting at Holloman Air Force Base in the 50s, because of the conditions that the extraterrestrials made. And he didn't accept the conditions, but who was left were Grumman, Northrop, Boeing, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. They were left, and they made the agreement, and that's how you got the military-industrial complex. And Eisenhower warned us about that before he left office. He was very cryptic about it, but he mentioned the military-industrial complex, and I believe that that's why Kennedy was assassinated, because he knew about it too, and he actually was going to do something about it.
Really?
Yeah. So
Huh.
so yeah. So the governments, they've been warned about, if we were to have the technology, that there would be a preemptive strike. Okay, so they're very concerned about that, and with everyone pushing for disclosure, they're pushing back on that to the point where they don't even want to recognize certain anomalous activity, or they even, I think, with the help of the military-industrial complex, and I feel that it's the military-industrial complex that you see some activity in the sky, like that triangular craft. They call it the TR-3B, which is very advanced, and I think that's from alien technology. Um, so I think that uh, the it's important to separate the two, and that the the governments, I think, all across the world understand the importance of making sure that they follow the orders, I guess, given to them. That, look, if you guys start messing around with technology that could be, used against us, or if you even try to go, into space, and we have the ability, because we can do, like, use a nuclear reaction to power our craft, so it would go very, very fast, but we won't do that. And the reason is because they want us here, and they want us to stay here until, we're better
So
spiritually.
is like Elon Musk's goal to go to Mars, is that kind of a threat to what their intent for us is? Because he very much wants to go to Mars and create the technology,
Yeah.
and his rockets have, evolved and gotten more efficient, and it seems like he's on a very good trajectory to kind of get there, and he obviously has the drive and the money. Do they view that as kind of like a threat, like, hey, you guys are crossing the threshold, don't go any further?
I don't think it's a threat to them, because think of it as just an extension of Earth. It's just another planet that they would be stranded on. You know,
Okay.
they could they could they could they could jump across planets and stuff like that, but they'll never reach the the places where these extraterrestrials live.
So they're not. It's not even remotely close. So they're not just. It's like not
No.
concerned. Like, go ahead. You're not even getting close to us
Yeah.
anyway.
Right.
Hmm.
The moon,
Wow.
however, that's different. Yeah.
Really, the moon is a no
Oh, yeah.
go, obviously, because they have. Well, you said they have a communication station there or something,
They have a listening post. Yeah.
a listening post. So they obviously don't want us to go too close to that because we would kind of, spoil their cover, I guess. That it's very bizarre, and to just think of it, like, let alone believe it and know that there's truth to it. We all, I think, as a species, we wonder, are we alone? Are there other people out there? Like, why haven't we connected with them? There's no way we're alone. Like, in this
Right.
huge, huge universe, there's no way that we're alone. I mean, there's what, 9
Right.
planets in our solar system, and to think that they're all empty is crazy.
Right.
Naturally something's got to be living on there, whether it's a small organism or versions of us, or a different species of living thing altogether. It's very interesting to think like that, but to know that there's been engagement, there's been communication from afar, and I kind of feel like we're failing. They're if they're giving us a grade in this classroom, I kind of feel like maybe we're failing.
Um, as a species, yeah. Um, Individually, you know, we have free will. Uh, that, and we need to understand that, you know, even though there may be prophecies about Armageddon or other things, we still have the ability to change what will happen in the future. It's Prophecies are not necessarily, uh, you know, definite.
Explain that a little bit. Prophecies aren't definite. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's an alternate timeline. We we still have the ability to of free will, where we still control, as a species, we control our destiny, because as individuals, I write that other people have greater impact on our lives than we have on ourselves. Okay. Um, and, there's fate and there's destiny. Everyone has a role to play in this school. Some have greater roles than others. My role is to be um, a counselor and informer, but actually recently I was corrected on that. I was actually told that I'm a liaison between the spiritual world and the human world. So, um, and that's the whole reason behind the books, right? To inform people. There, there's a passage in the book where, I was describing where the spirits go.
Okay.
Remember that? And that's another profound event that happened to me that caused me to write the book. One was that where a woman, spiritual, psychic woman, um, told me that I was going to be tested, and she said I was going to be tested in meditation. And not long after she told me that, I actually went through a wormhole, which was absolutely amazing. Colors, motion. Have you seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster?
Yes.
Well, do you remember when she was in that sphere and it was released and she went through that? That's pretty much what I felt. Um,
Hmm.
really high energy. Um, the heart rate was high. I was perspiring. I was vibrating. And then when I realized what was happening, I was back in my body. There was a second out of body experience, which was even more profound. And that was seeing a cloud of indigo in front of me, and at the same time feeling a euphoria that you wouldn't feel on earth. As far as a happiness, it's beyond happiness. And as I got closer, the cloud dissipated, and all along the horizon you could see flashes of indigo, and the euphoria got even stronger. And then the message was that this was the place where the spirits go between lives to congregate, each spirit being one energy in this. I call it like a beehive of activity, because that's what it was like, just a huge beehive of activity. And that that mass, if you think, if it has one thought, all right,
Mm-hmm.
all of those energies in one thought, that mass is what they call the source, or God. That's what God is. And that's why the Bible says God is within us and God is around us, because that's what makes sense. The spirit is part of God when it goes there. It's not part of God when it's with us, but when it goes there, it is.
Mm.
So when I when I got that information, I was back in my body. So those are the two things that I documented, that I put in the book to add to the spiritual nature of the story.
Yeah, let's talk about the disclosure paradox, your novel, and
Okay.
give me a spoiler free kind of rundown.
All right. First of all, first disclosure, right, is the act of applying pressure to governments and organizations to divulge information regarding extraterrestrials and their technology. The paradox is, how are we as a human race supposed to improve ourselves spiritually if we're not allowed to know what's wrong with us? So the religions are keeping that from us. And that's the paradox. The paradox is also, if we were to have disclosure, we would have an event that was not expected, an unexpected event. People think that disclosure would lead to free energy and better health and, you know, a Star Trek kind of community. That's not necessarily the case. So, um, the book itself, the story itself, could be an autobiography, because it's It the main character is based on myself. All of the events that happen to me, either spiritually or in real time, um, are documented in there. All the characters are based on real people. It's fiction because I protect their identities, including an officer who is a high-ranking officer in the Army. And the other thing is that uh, I just add some things like action and an attack on an underground installation to add to the plot to give some uniformity to the story and make it entertaining. It's essentially a group of people that meet each other based on fate. Um, it starts out with two, and then adds, and then you, as you go cross country, you meet more people, and so it's a physical journey, but at the same time, there is a spiritual evolution going on too, until they finally hit their destination.
Wow. Wow. I like what you said a minute ago. How can we improve if they won't tell us what we're doing wrong or what's wrong with us? That's
Right.
that's so huge because it seems like this it's like a game. Like we're supposed to be better and supposed to spiritually grow so that we can advance and stay inside this classroom and do what's right and 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 grow, but we can't know what's wrong. We can't know what we're doing wrong.
Right.
So how do you accomplish that? And it's very interesting the way that's kind of set up because like it makes a lot of sense. How do we improve?
Right. So the disclosure paradox for people, it it presents you the picture one piece of the puzzle at a time. I told you why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
I told you that other people have a greater influence on ourselves. I told you everyone has a role. And as you go through and read the book, it'll tell you how to not go too deep in that rabbit hole because people do that. They don't know when to stop. And so it tells you about that. And it tells you uh, about other things. For instance, like what's going on out west, which is one of the places that they go to, Dulce, New Mexico. I got a lot of information that I used in the book, and by the way, there may be some things that involve factual evidence, but like the activity related to the evidence did not happen. So, um, for example, the base at Dulce, New Mexico, which is an Indian reservation. There. I don't know if it's still there, but there's an underground installation where they would keep abducted fetuses and children and grow super soldiers. And it was a joint mission between a malevolent extraterrestrial race and the military industrial complex, not the government. The government was not involved. It was different. This was part of that agreement that I told you about that they did, right?
Yep.
So um, I got that information from a woman whose mother was CIA. And before she passed, she gave her daughter information related to Dulce, related to extraterrestrial autopsies, related to. I have a briefing document, a copy of briefing document from the Truman administration to the Eisenhower administration that defines the Majestic 12, who is in it, why they set it up, all of the activities that they found related to anomalous activities that they couldn't explain is all in that document. So again, I used all of that information, which is fact-based, and put it in that book. I put as much stuff that I knew to be facts to, to put in that book so that people would spend time going through and maybe going into the internet and checking up on it and seeing, what they could read further about it.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Some of these natural disasters that we've had, from volcanoes over the course of history to earthquakes, wildfires, pandemics, are those really natural disasters, or are those like injected occurrences to test our will?
I think, and I've heard this from other people about this the earthquake and tsunami in Japan that caused the radiation leak
Mm-hmm.
for that power plant. There were so many things that pointed out that it wasn't a natural event. I can't say for certain, but I think you raise a point that it's very possible that part of being in this school is that we're given tests, and we have to accept it, whether or not they're fair.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder, like when you're talking about, the school portion and us as a species growing, like maybe have we are we going too far to one side where we hit a boundary and they go, okay, you're not growing, we need to get you back to center. So there's a pandemic, there's an earthquake, there's a tsunami that wrecks a nuclear, like Chernobyl was a big deal. Look what it did at Chernobyl. It just wiped out. They say that land is never going to be, we'll never be able to inhabit that land. Like it'll be never habitable for a long, long time, like
Well,
20,000 years, something crazy like that.
yeah, with the technology that we have now, but there is technology, from what I understand, that they have that can clean up radiation quickly.
But we can't have that technology because we're kind of embargoed.
Yeah,
We're under that
right. Well, think
quarantine,
about
like
it.
what you said.
If think about it, if we did have that technology, I think we would be less risk averse in using nuclear weapons, right?
Sure, because we could just clean it up,
Right.
and it would lessen the, I guess, the value of it. Like right now, we really fear what would happen if a nuke was launched from Russia. We would launch one in retaliation, and it would just be nuclear war, and it would last an hour or two, and then war would be over, and millions of people would be dead, and that's the fear of,
Billions. Yeah.
yeah, billions of people. That would be the fear. That's kind of what I think is keeping it at bay. But if we knew we could clean it up and that all could be well, maybe lives
Right.
wouldn't be spared nearly as much. The mess could be picked up by the end of the week. That not trying to poke fun of it, but at the same
No,
time,
but no, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, like why would it be
Exactly.
why would we why would it be scary anymore?
Right.
It wouldn't be, and that's, I can see why. You kind of wonder, like when the iPhone was created, we go, oh, this is such an awesome device. It does everything right here. I can surf the internet, I can check social media, stay in touch with my friends and family, my calendar's here, music, everything. I could go on and on about what all this little device does, but you kind of just wonder, like, is that the greatest thing that we've done so far to date, or are there other things out there? Are there secrets that are not, being told to us? And I didn't realize that there's such a delineation between the military industrial complex and the government. And that agreement that you talked about is very, very interesting. Something I'm going to dive into a little bit more myself, because you kind of wonder why do we always need it? It's always needed. Like these companies are sometimes they're not going towards profit, and they're going bankrupt, and you hear about all their millions and millions in losses, but they're still around.
Hmm.
And you go, why? Why do we
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
this sector across the world to just keep churning out weapons and different technologies?
Have you heard the acronym DUMBS, DUMS,
No.
Deep Underground Military Bases?
No, never heard of it.
All right. There's there's information about that, and I think that's related to the military-industrial complex and high technology. Apparently, there are underground links between certain facilities like White Sands, Area 51, probably Cheyenne Mountain, and they're deep underground, and they use a very high, maglev type of technology.
Really, that is interesting. Huh. Man, some of the
You
stuff
can
is
look it up.
blowing my mind. I'm gonna be up all night tonight, looking up stuff because this is really blowing my mind, especially the military-industrial complex and its purpose and this agreement. I really want to dig into that some more because it makes sense to even not share with our own governments some of these
Sure,
things because
because you have the upper hand.
well, yeah, and we've proven over the course of history that if governments are given free will and free reign, what kind of destructive things they're capable of.
Yeah, but at the same time, the government uh, is keeping a a respect for these contractors, for these contractors of weapons, and somehow we always have a conflict going on.
It's true. We do. We have a need for war. It's
Right?
very. Is that just a way for them to continue to develop technologies?
I think so. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Well, Paul, this has been really, really interesting, and I appreciate your time. Your book is out. By the time people hear this, it's the replay. They'll hear uh, more about your book, the Disclosure Paradox, which is really, really interesting. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. Where can they go? Where can people go to find more about you and kind of follow along with you on social media?
The uh, the best place is my website, which is a really professional, well done website by Blue Gorilla, by the way, and it's simply thedisclosureparadox.com, all one word. There, people can read excerpts, they can read character descriptions, they can read the preface, um, reviews by subject matter experts, including a former executive at Northrop, did a review on my book. He's with MUFON now. You know who MUFON is, right?
Nope.
The Mutual UFO Network. There, it's an organization that has chapters all over the country, but it's like a nationwide organization, and there are large chapters all over the country, and they have set up standards on how to report UFO activity so that people can discern between the hoaxes and the truth.
Wow.
Um, and so anyway, and of course, if you scroll down after you hit a button that says "Learn More," and you scroll down, you could see links to Amazon, Barnes and Noble. If they're in England, Waterstones. If they're in Canada, Indie Canada, and even Books a Million. So, and if the people have a favorite bookstore in their neighborhood that they like, they could go there. They could go to the person at the counter and tell them about the book, and it's going to be in the system. They could
Yeah.
order it there.
Absolutely. Yeah, check the ISBN out and go to your favorite bookstore and shop local for sure because yeah, these local
Exactly.
bookstores are what keep authors in business, so definitely support them for sure. And Paul, again, thanks for your time. I appreciate you so much. This has been interesting. I wish you the best of luck on the book, and you are welcome anytime, my friend.
Well, I'm coming out with a second one in October, and that kind of closes some things on this one because it's a sequel.
Okay.
So be
We'll
on the
do this
lookout for
again
that one.
for sure.
All right. Thank you.